Will we know if we're
Hi. Hello, everyone out there in cyber world. Thanks for joining us. If you're here, I appreciate it. Sorry for the delay and the start of this, but I just want to introduce myself. My name is Alan Osborne. I'm the Chief Business Development Officer with Family Source Consultants. We are a third-party reproduction agency. We have an egg donor and a surrogacy program. And we're here today to talk to intended parents, to answer any question intended parents have. We've done webinars like this before, but it's focused on egg donors or gestational carriers, and we want to give some intended parents some love. So, my job kind of centers around, having consultations with intended parents, looking into surrogacy, and also working like closely with fertility clinics to help get us some intended parents to come to us that have been going through IVF and maybe have found out recently that they need to look into surrogacy. So I am really excited to be here with my cohort Vicky, who was a former employee of Family Source Consultants. She just left to go on her maternity leave because she is an intended parent herself. So Vicky, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Vicky. I am currently on my second surrogacy journey. I had my son via surrogate last January. He's actually 17 months today. And I am on my second surrogacy journey. Baby is due September 6th. So I'm taking some time to just get my life together for that. So I'm happy to answer any questions you all have about, just being an intended parent or surrogacy in general. I'm here to support.
Awesome. Thanks, Vicky. So yeah, we're going to open it up to questions. We've already got one that's popped up. And it is, can you please speak a bit to a realistic timeline intended parents should consider when determining what the right time is for them to start reaching out to agencies? Yeah, good question. So a realistic timeline IP should consider when determining what the right time is for them to start reaching out to agencies would be, it's up to you as intended parents. I speak to a lot of them that have just kind of found out that they need to look into surrogacy. Maybe they've tried, on their own with IVF, and they've just had a bunch of failed transfers, miscarriages, lots of heartache. And they're just now kind of coming to terms with it. So it's really up to them, how quickly they want to get started. For our agency right now, the average matching time frame is around 6 months. So, if they have embryos created, that's always a good start. But you can kind of do both in tandem, do a retrieval and get embryos created while we started the matching process. So, a time frame would be the sooner the better to get started. Would you agree, Vicky?
That's what I did. After I decided, after my 7th transfer that failed, we decided we're taking the surrogacy path. And that's when I started interviewing agencies as well as new clinics. And I just started right away. Interview the agency, interview the clinic, pick your agency, pick your clinic, go through the, embryo retrieval process or egg retrieval process. And I think what you said was pretty accurate, Alan.
Yeah. You can do it in installments, maybe get your embryos first, then start looking to an agency. But it does take time to get matched. Unfortunately, it's just kind of the nature of the surrogacy beast. So the faster you can get started in that matching process is usually the best.
Exactly.
Okay. Second question. What if someone knows they will be pursuing surrogacy in the future, but don't want a baby in the next year?
I still think if you know that you want to pursue surrogacy, you should at least do some interviews, talk to agencies, learn about the process, the cost, all of it, even if you don't want a baby in the next year, because like Alan said, it does take some time to get matched. So there's no harm in just doing, a consultation, in my opinion.
Exactly. Yeah. And look, this is, obviously we're here representing Family Source Consultants. We'd love to work with every intended parent out there. But this is a huge emotional and financial commitment. And it would make sense to shop around, or at least to interview as many agencies as you can, because, it's going to be a big part of your life moving forward. And it's also a time commitment. For our agency, the average, matching time frame is 6 months. I said the word average there. It could be less, it could be more. It just kind of depends on what you're looking for and how it matches up with the women in our Ready to Match program. But the earlier you can get going, obviously the faster. But if you interview other agencies and you get that average matching time from them, that could maybe help you decide when to sign with an agency if you didn't want to have that child within the next year.
Right. Plus, also, from the time that you sign up with an agency, it takes 18 months average till your baby comes. So it's a process. It's a long process. So the earlier you start doing your research, the better, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
We have another question.
Yes. It says, finding an agency can be so overwhelming. Is there a database somewhere, or how should IPs go about getting options?
So great question. In my opinion, I think two ways. Number one, if you have, a close friend or family member who's had experience with an agency, that's a good way. And the other way is through your clinics. They usually will have a list of referrals or agency referrals, which means that they have likely worked with this agency before for them to even be on the list. And they've had good experience with them. So that's another way. And then, of course, there's social media too. But I think that, if a clinic is referring you to an agency, then it comes highly recommended. And that's a good place to start, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say, is that I would probably talk to your doctor, your fertility doctor first, or to friends or someone that's been through the process before, because, they'll be able to provide a lot of valuable information for you. Obviously, if you're getting referred by a doctor, like Vicky said, they are, vetting agencies. They're not just going to, put anybody on a list that they don't trust to work with. Obviously, there's lots of organizations out there that, rank or work with surrogacy agencies. There's some surrogacy concierge agencies out there. But yeah, I mean, the first place I would go to would be, someone that and not your fertility clinic.
I agree.
Okay. Next question. Does geography matter when picking an agency? Does geography matter when matching with a surrogate?
I personally don't think so, but you can go on and you can, if you want to take this one, go for it. I can also.
No, I mean, it does, but it doesn't. Like, obviously, it'd be nice if your agency was nearby where you live, but it doesn't matter where your surrogate is from at all. Now, if it's important for you that you want to go to doctor's appointments, you don't want to be too far away from your surrogate, because your surrogate will give birth in the state that she's from. Then at our agency, we would cater your search for that surrogate that way. We would only share profiles with people if that's important to you. But really, in the grand scheme of things, if you want to get this done as quickly as possible, you probably want to be as open as you can to where your surrogate is from, because it's just, our agency, we accept, women into our program from every state in the union where surrogacy is legal. You have to be a U.S. citizen. But if you want them to be from your hometown, you're just kind of taking the whole country and you're narrowing it down to one specific region. So it might make it, most likely will make your wait time a little bit longer.
For sure.
Yeah, but it really doesn't matter, where your surrogate is from. They're going to have to travel to your clinic for the embryo transfer and to get medically cleared. So that will factor into the cost of your surrogacy journey. But it doesn't really matter where they're from.
As far as the journey too, a lot of people will be like, oh, I want to go to the appointments. And I was like that too. I originally wanted driving distance and ended up going, the other side of the country, but it's totally doable. We FaceTimed on all the appointments, and you just go there for the delivery, and it really isn't as complicated as I thought it was prior to doing it. I'm totally open to the, geography. In my opinion, doesn't matter.
All right, next question. How does the process for international IPs or intended parents differ from the process for domestic intended parents? It's not too different, like on the clinical side of things. Like, you need to create embryos. They need to be at a clinic. Your clinic needs to medically clear your surrogate you get matched with, and then they do the embryo transfer there. Now, there are going to be some differences with FDA. Like, if you are shipping your embryos from outside of the country, you need to make sure that they're, above board with the FDA guidelines. And one thing that does come into play is getting your child back home. You're going to need to get citizenship for them in your country. And you're also going to need to get insurance for them, because if you were born in the United States to domestic intended parents, your child will go onto your insurance, right? But if you're from anywhere else in the world, you don't have American health insurance. So you're going to need to get your child insured to get them home. Now, as far as like the citizenship, that's stuff that your attorney will help you with on the state side, and also your attorney in whatever country you live from. It's different with every single country. So those are some of the biggest differences. Next question. What types of factors should intended parents consider when comparing one agency to another? Vicky, why don't you take this one? You did that.
I guess, like I said, if you know someone who's had direct experience with the agency, you're going to be with this agency for a long time. So communication is a huge one for me. Like, are they responsive? If you send them an email, do they respond to you within a day? Or even better, texting or whatever form of communication. That's a huge one for me. Time frame of matching is a big one. What are they quoting you? Of course, cost is another one. I think those are the three biggest, in my opinion, just like communication. I'm very big on that in general, whether it's a clinic or an agency. Like, are they communicative? Will they respond to you? That's a big one. Number one.
Yeah, I would back you up on that. Like, if you factor in, let's just use our agency as an example. If it takes us on average 6 months to get you matched, and then it can take anywhere from about 2 to 4 months to actually do the embryo transfer after your legal is done. Mm-hmm. And then you're pregnant for 10 months. If the first embryo transfer is successful, that's 20 months. So that's almost 2 years that you're working with this agency very closely through a very stressful time. So I would want to make sure that the people I'm working with, I'm very comfortable with, and that they're answering my emails and my text messages, my phone calls in a timely manner. I would also want to work with an agency where people have kind of been through it before. It'd be nice if the person that you are communicating with has any sort of personal experience with infertility, or maybe even has been a surrogate before, because they're going to know what to expect, and they're going to know why this bill is coming in and why it costs. They're going to know how to get in touch with the clinics when they need to. And I think that would be a big thing that would sway me one way or another. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like Vicky hit on the big ones, like cost, how long is this going to take? Mm-hmm. Maybe what kind of packages that they provide. Mm-hmm. Some agencies, it's very much like, this is going to cost what it costs, depending on who you get matched with. They have a lower agency fee, higher agency fee. Some agencies ask for a retainer up front. Others wait until you're matched, like whatever's important to you. But yeah, I would kind of go back to what Vicky said, like communication would be like the biggest thing for me. Mm-hmm. Because every agency out there's a lot of great ones. Right. I mean, they all have your best intentions in mind. They want you to have a healthy baby. Mm-hmm. Cool. All right, next question. For intended parents, what types of structures do different agencies offer? And what might the pros and cons of the different pricing structures look like? Okay. So I kind of touched on it a little bit on the last question, right? Like, some agencies ask for a retainer up front and to begin the matching process, and then they share profiles with you, or they would like allow you access to maybe a database of a pool of women they have. Other agencies will share profiles of surrogates with you ahead of time and then ask for a payment, once you guys have been matched. The pros and cons to that are pretty straightforward. Like, you can see who you're going to be working with ahead of time, which, our agency does it the other way. We do a retainer. Like, we're very big on getting you matched with the right person the first time. We don't want any sort of rematching type of situation to happen, because so much time has gone by and so much money has been exchanged. So I would just, if you're seeing profiles before you paid any money, I would just, make sure that you're not just getting profiles of anyone off the street. It's someone that actually meets your requirements. Now, other agencies ask for all the money up front. Our agency asks we split it up into 3 payments. One's due as a retainer up front. The second one's due once you've accepted to work with the surrogate, and the third one's due upon the completion of your legal. But yeah, I mean, there's lots of different pricing structures as well. I mean, there's all inclusive packages. There's like more line item a la carte type of packages. It's whatever you're most comfortable with. Obviously, like some of the pros, the all in packages would be that it's kind of a peace of mind that you have like a better understanding of what this is going to cost like ahead of time. I can definitely see the value in something like that. The only thing that you would, and this would be in the language of any of these agreements, is that, maybe you might not spend as much money on certain types of things, and then the agency would keep that money. That's part of the deal, right? So when you do more of like an a la carte line item type thing, you're paying what this costs, right? So there's pros and cons there. Cool. What kind of support and resources does FSC offer to intended parents throughout their journey? Okay. Well, that's great. Well, first of all, if you sign up with Family Source Consultants, you are given a dedicated match team. We have 3 individuals on our match team. They're all licensed mental health professionals. So they are doing psychological evaluations throughout the intake process of our surrogates, just to make sure that they're mentally prepared for, a surrogacy journey. And then the rest of their job is to get you matched with the right person. So they're every day working behind the scenes, using that information that you've given to us, like through a profile and questionnaire that you filled out, and kind of cross-referencing it with the women in our program, just to make sure that we're going to get you the right fit the first time.
And your clinic, what your requires, right?
But as far as other support, we do have, support groups within Family Source Consultants for intended parents, gestational carriers, egg donors. We strongly urge you to participate in those because of, this is an emotional process. It's really nice to be able to talk to other people that have been through it or are going through it at the same time. It's just such an emotional process that it's nice to have, to hear how other people are handling it in their own way. Maybe handling how they handled a failed embryo transfer and how they overcame that, or something that maybe went sideways or that they had to, overcome. So it's nice to be able to do that and just learn from other people. Right.
I agree.
Cool. What are some frequently asked questions you hear a lot from new?
Sorry. My dog.
Yeah. So, I guess probably the most typical questions that I get, like right off the bat, like how long was it going to take you to get matched, right? So we kind of went over that a few times. On average with our agency, it takes about 6 months. Another question I get a lot would be, how many embryos do I need to have to make this happen, right? So the more embryos you have, the better it is, right? Because in case there's a failed embryo transfer, you have another opportunity. The magic number, so to speak, and it only takes 1 embryo to have a child, right? But the number that is like kind of the standard for like a legal contract is going to be 3. That's the amount that your surrogate will agree to do, 3 transfers. And you're going to have, odds are you're going to have a healthy child in those 3 attempts. Another question would ask, what happens when a transfer doesn't work? What you do is you just consult with your doctor. And, usually what happens is we just do another one. We have to wait till her cycle's in the right place. And then she starts her injectable medications again. And, we do another transfer. What were some of the questions you had when you were going through this, Vicky?
I would get questions just in general about like, how do you sort of let go during the process? Or how do you not, let go of control? And that's one of the hardest parts, I think, of the journey is not, it's somebody else is carrying your baby. Someone else is doing all this stuff. How do you just let go? And it's sort of like this is a journey of faith, like just putting your faith into this person who equally wants to bring this child to life for you. So having to just take the leap of faith, and that's it. And just taking deep breaths every day. It will be okay. Mantra, it's going to be okay, over and over and over again. So that was a question that I heard all the time. Like, how do you let go?
Yeah.
Hard to answer.
It's,
but you do.
Yeah. And I got questions like, what kind of relationship should I expect? Or, what do I want? What does the surrogate, what kind of relationship does she want to have? Because, the way it works at Family Source Consultants is, we share your profile information with them first, and then they choose you. So like they've seen your profile, and then if they say, yeah, sure, I'd love to meet Jody and Jim, like then we share their profile with you. So they're really kind of in this to help people. Like a lot of people think that it's a money grab for gestational carriers, or like there's only women that are on government assistance that are doing this. And that's just one of the things that I learned right off the bat when I got into this industry. That's not the case at all. I almost work exclusively with surrogates or former surrogates, and they are the kindest, warmest, most compassionate people. They've done their family already. They really have.
If you even just look into what it takes to go through a transfer, and these people are doing them for complete strangers, essentially, like it's a lot that they're putting on their body, emotionally, physically, and they really just want to see you have your child. So I think as far as the relationship, I always told IPs that it's really just, it's sort of like, it grows organically. Like, what's your intention? Do you want to at least have open communication? You may or may not become best friends, but it doesn't, what's your intention going into it? And then it just sort of grows organically as the pregnancy progresses. And I believe most surrogates want to have that sort of, communication with you. It's your baby, it's your pregnancy as well. So they want you included in the process.
Yeah. I mean, and at least with our agency, they've chosen to work with you first. So they want to make sure that the people they chose were the right people. There's certainly more intended parents out there than there are gestational carriers. They have their choice of people to work with. They really are just amazing people. It's not like the movies or anything like that. No one's moving into somebody's house.
Correct.
Holding your baby ransom. There's legal contracts in place to protect you from that. But speaking to what Vicky said before, it is very much a contract of faith, and you have to, that's why you talk to a bunch of different agencies. You have to figure out who is vetting these women to make sure that they're the right type of person to do this for you.
Correct.
Cool. I'm trying to think of any other questions that I get a lot.
Is it possible that they can keep the baby? No, absolutely not. That's why we have contracts in place. First of all, they don't even want to keep the baby. I promise you. They want to give you that baby. They always say, I want to give you your baby back. I'm not giving you my baby. It's not their baby. They know this going into it, that this is your baby. So that is should not be a fear or concern whatsoever.
Yeah. And there's no biological tie to it. Like we Family Source Consultants only facilitates, gestational carrier journeys, right? There's another type of surrogacy called traditional surrogacy, where, the woman carrying the child for the intended parents is also using her eggs. So she would have a biological tie to that. We don't facilitate that. We just do gestational carrier, where it's different biology in a carrier. Cool. So, without the next question here is without revealing any personal or identifying information, can you share a particularly rewarding case or experience you've been part of through your role?
Go for it.
Yeah. I mean, they're all somewhat similar in the fact that these people, you hear a lot of really sad stories when you're sitting consultations with people, how, there was complications in their first pregnancy, which led them not being able to do their second one, or they've just, they found out something like after the fact and they lost a child and they had a miscarriage or several miscarriages. So this, stories are similar in that, like, we help them get to the point where they get to realize the joy of having a child. I mean, I can speak.
Nothing more rewarding than that, for sure.
It really isn't. I mean, Vicky has herself. I think you
Right.
had what, 7 failed transfers?
7, no, I had 3 miscarriages, 7 out of the 7 transfers, so the rest were fails.
Yeah.
And I mean, I haven't been with FSC for very long, but just the fact that I'm able to provide a little bit of hope after they hear my story is also very rewarding, because they're like, okay, if it can happen for you, it can happen for me too. And that's just, I love being able to share that with
Yeah.
someone.
I mean, I just earlier or last week, I spoke with a couple that I had helped. I consulted with them when they first reached out to us, and they are now 25 weeks pregnant. They had one of those, typical stories where they had been trying forever. They found each other later in life, tried all these retrievals and transfers. It wasn't working. And they actually came back to us because they wanted to do this again. And they haven't even had a child yet, but everything is going so well.
They want to do it.
I mean, I got chills when I was talking to them again, because she's just like, I could not have imagined how much better this could go.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm texting with my surrogate all the time. We are just right on schedule with everything. Like, my case manager is answering every question I ever have. Like, we're just really, really happy. I mean, that's why they came back to us, obviously.
Right,
but,
right.
I just, whenever I hear things like that, I remember back to the initial consultation and just knowing how bad they wanted it, and how, now that it's actually happening, it's a really great feeling.
Awesome.
I got into this industry because my wife and I struggled with, miscarriages and failed transfers. And when my child was born, it profoundly changed my life for the better. I just wanted to be a part of that. I really did. And I think Vicky can kind of speak the same way. Like, she documented her story for the world on social media, and she's doing it again, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I want another kid. And then you have one kid and you're like, yeah, now I know why people do this again.
Yeah.
So,
all right. One last question for now, at least, unless anyone in the audience has one. What advice would you give to intended parents just starting out their journey? Vicky, you go first.
So I think that, number one, it's really important to be 100% like ready and committed to the surrogacy process. Like, being okay with the fact that you are not going to carry your baby, going to therapy if you need to help you sort of move through it, get through it. Because the more you are ready for it, the better the journey is going to be for you. If you are still sort of like tiptoeing on the, I might transfer, I don't know, it's going to just lead to confusion, and sort of, you don't want to have any resentment during the process. So for me personally, I was, when we made the decision, that was a decision. We're going down the surrogacy path. And I didn't look back. This was my journey. I have accepted my journey. So you have to just sort of get into that place of acceptance that this is how you're going to have a baby. It may not have been what you had imagined or dreamed of, but I, on the other side, think it's the most incredible story. Like, I get to tell my kid, you were in the freezer and you grew in someone else's uterus. Like, how cool is that? Like, you just have to change your perspective on, how incredibly miraculous it is to bring a child through surrogacy. So I think just first and foremost, acceptance. Accept that this is your path, and look at it from a positive mindset instead of what I'm lacking or what I'm not able to do. Think about what you're bringing into your life. You're going to bring possibly even a new friend, so that would be my advice starting out.
Yeah, it's great advice. I guess my advice would be, you're going to find a great clinic and doctor to work with first and foremost. There's lots of great ones out there, and there's no shame at all in shopping around for that. Work with whoever you're comfortable with. Mm-hmm. Another piece of advice I would say is, on the IVF side of things, or even with some companies, like, look into your insurance coverage, see how that can help you, pay for this, because it is expensive. And, farther we move along in infertility, like, the more and more, options there are for people to get help through their insurance coverage. So if it's, I know it's annoying to call your insurance company and be on hold and have to go through all the prompts, but like, if it saves you $25,000, it might be worth that phone call, right?
Totally.
And then my other advice would be like, you don't have to do everything all at once. It's helpful if you can afford it to do it all at once, but if you can do things in chunks, if time is not as big of an issue, get your clinic chosen, get all your tests done, get your embryos created, then move on to surrogacy. Like, do it
in stages, yeah.
Right? Because then it's going to be overwhelming regardless. But like, if you can maybe like space that out a little bit and not make it as big of a thing all at once, I think that's some decent advice. But
I agree.
Yeah. And then obviously like work with who you're comfortable with.
Yes.
Like this is going to be a long process. Make sure that whoever you ultimately decide to work with will support you, communicate with you, and hold your hand through everything, because there's a lot of stuff that needs to happen.
There is.
Well, cool. Thank you, everybody. I don't think there's anybody in the audience with a question. Unless there is, please, we're here. That's what we're here for. But like, yeah, if you ever have any additional questions, like, please feel free to reach out to me. You can email me at Alan, ALAN, at FamilySourceConsultants with an S at the end.com, or go to FamilySourceConsultants.com and just go to the info or contact us, and somebody will get back to you right away.
Or even in your Instagram page too. We answer
Instagram, social media. Yeah. We're here to help. There's like we don't charge any money for answering a question or like sitting in a consultation. It's a lot of questions that we can help you answer as you try to figure this out.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks everyone. Yeah. Have a great summer. I think we're going to be doing one of these like once a quarter for like intended parents. So
awesome.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys soon.
Social media and stuff, and we'll see you at the next one. Cool.
Awesome.